yesterday. But I think that a lot of Bitcoiners are sleeping on this right now. And it just kind of came to me yesterday as well. I was sleeping on this. I've been talking about it, one thing, and I've been talking about another thing. And it wasn't until yesterday where I finally put the two together. So Trump's been talking about his tax plans, right? I forget everything that he's listed. He said no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips, no tax for veterans, no tax on a whole bunch of things. He has a list of about 10 things, I think, that he said he's going to pay no tax on. And somebody asked him yesterday, how is it possible to have no tax? And he was talking about tariffs. But you have to keep in mind here that this is another one of my predictions here for the next 10 years. Is that over the next 10 years, I think that, or earlier, I think that federal income taxes will completely disappear. He's going down all these different routes trying to appeal to voters, because if he just said there's going to be no tax, no federal income tax for anybody, people will be like, well, you're full of shit, right? But he's going after the waitresses. He's going after the retired folks with Social Security. He's going after the barbers. He's going after the veterans. And he's saying all these different things that you're going to have to pay no tax on. But so my theory is that in 10 years from now or less, there's going to be no federal income taxes at all. And the reason I say that is because AI is going to replace most people's jobs, and AI is not going to be paying income taxes. So that's one. But the other part too there is that it's going to be subsidized by Bitcoin mining. All of these natural resources around the world, here in Canada, in the US, in India, in Costa Rica, all of our natural resources, El Salvador, volcanoes, hydro, wind, solar, nuclear, everything is going to be used to mine Bitcoin. And that's what's going to, what would you call it, fund the government. It's going to be a much smaller government at that time, obviously. Hopefully, if things go our way. But that's what it'll look like. The Bitcoin mining will subsidize the smaller government, and people can kind of just do what they want to. But what I was going to say on that was the tax on tips. So Bitcoiners for a few years now have been obsessed with this value for value, circular economy. Do things, whatever people get, whatever value people receive, they can give that back to you. So yesterday, this kind of clicked to me. I thought, okay, well, if there's no tax on tips and Bitcoiners are focused on building businesses and content and their strategy around the value for value method, then all of the value for value tips that you receive aren't going to be taxable. Right? So kind of an action item there is start thinking about things that you can do, because it's going to be very difficult. And this is going to be over for the next couple of years. It's going to be very difficult for the federal government to differentiate between tips. Let's say Trump wins and he implements this no tax on tips. How are they going to be able to differentiate between tips and business income? So if I have a Bitcoin Buddha, or let's say, Bitcoin Buddha, let's say he wants to set up a multi-jurisdictional Bitcoin setup. And we say, okay, here's the info. We have our meetings. This is kind of the baseline for, what we charge. But then they get to decide how much that meeting was worth to them. And they send me 500,000 sats. That's a tip. So I don't pay any tax on that. There's no tax on tips. Value for value is tips. That's all it is. Right? I mean, you can structure your business in a way where you say, okay, well, here's the flat rate, and then anything on top of that is tips, and I'm not going to pay any tax on that. Or you can just say, all of the income that I just received is tips, so I'm not paying any tax on that. Kind of mind-bending, don't you think? I don't know.